Ready? You know how to do the group cough, right? Turn it away. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. See, drowned me out. All right. You need to dust better.
Not a chance.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Perfect example. I have to count the cost of using this as a venue and know that sometimes there's something falling off that fan over my head that I inhale on a long note. Now I can get bent out of shape, though that's not my style, and expected to be different, but I am definitely expecting beyond my means because I have just been informed it ain't going to change. Either choke and accept it or stand somewhere else. We seriously don't get this as Christians. We do not get that while the rules of spiritual principles apply to every single person on the planet the exact same way, and that the love of God is the exact same love for every person on the planet, the results, the fruit, the gifts, the consequences, and the experience are completely different for every single person. You know, for all we know, chocolate tastes different to every human being on the planet. We seem to be in agreement that most of us seem to really like it, but we have no idea what it tastes like to another person. It may taste like lime to somebody, and it may taste like raspberry to someone. It may taste like peanut butter to somebody. I know this is absurd, but how do you know that's not the case? How do you know exactly what someone else's taste is like? You don't. You're just assuming that how something tastes to you is how it's going to taste to them. You're also looking at other people, which is natural, and saying, I do the exact same thing they do, and they get a different result. In fact, I've done more than that person. I've done it better than that person, and they get a different result, and I get a different result. Why is that? Because we're having an individual experience in this life. We have our own walk with God. And even though the principles never change and His love never changes, everything in between is completely different. I've joked so many times, you should come to Jesus because you've heard what I said, but don't worry, God's not going to make you wear a dress and preach. That was my gift from God. It's true. A lot of people are called into ministry, but some people are called into a ministry that does not involve the level of controversy that my ministry has had. So it's kind of silly for me to sit around and go, well, that person's not having any controversy. Why am I? And someone's like, well, they're wearing a 3-piece suit. Oh, that's different? Of course, I would have to be able to see with my own eyes. So my expectation and my assumptions would have to be different, or I'd be deluding myself. I'd be saying, we're all doing the same work no matter what we're wearing. That's not true. We're all doing the same work no matter what we're saying. That's not true either. We're all doing the same work no matter how we act about it, how we go about it. That's not true. I have to count the cost of my calling. It's not just what God told me to give up to follow Him. It's who He's made me to be in Him. And I have to count the cost of what that brings about. There are things that I have lost because of how God has told me to conduct my ministry that I would not have lost had He not. And I was talking to a woman that I know, and she and her husband pastor a church. And so she's the pastor's wife, but I think she's more like a co-pastor in her role. And she read, stuff I've written online, and she wrote me and she said, I really pray that you feel like you belong in this world more at some point. I really feel like, you feel lost a lot, or you feel like an outsider or a spectator. And I wrote back, I go, well, have you seen me yet? I mean, I am an outsider. And it's not just wardrobe, it's from the inside out. I'm different. And I said, I'm a little confused because Jesus said, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And he specifically meant, this world is not my home, I'm just passing through. Specifically. And by the way, this world is not my home, I'm just passing through, is older than all of us. People got that pilgrim, well, most of us, people have got that pilgrim concept since the beginning of Christianity. It's kind of in the Bible, being in the world and not of it. If you're a friend of the world, you're not a friend of God, stuff like that. And I was surprised to have a minister say to me, I'm surprised you feel that way. And I said, well, don't you feel that way? Don't you feel like you're up against the stream, and that you're bucking the system, and that you reach out to people, and and they reject you, they reject what you have to say, and don't you feel it? And she wrote back, she's like, I don't feel that way at all. I mean, my life's a blessing. I'm so grateful. I'm so honored. I'm a light in this world, and I feel great. And I was like, I think you're doing it wrong. Or you might be doing it wrong. You might want to consider what the Bible says about how you feel if it's cushy. But I thought about it, and anytime you point out a racial element to what you're saying, in America today, you get an email. So consider it deleted. She and her husband are African American, and they pastor an African American church. What I've noticed in the African American churches that I've performed at is a very tight-knit church community. A very, very large, extended family with tremendous respect towards old people and tremendous respect to the women, especially the pastor's wife or co-pastor. And there's no insult in that. I think it's beautiful. But you go and you go, gosh, I've been to churches, I've never seen this in any of my churches. But I see it here. And so this is someone who, when they go and they call someone and say, I need you to do this, people jump. This is someone who, when they call someone and says, this is what God told me to tell you, you need to stop doing this, that person listens. Because it's part of the church culture to have tremendous reverence. And I say, well, it must be nice, because you are not me. And my call is different than your call. You seem to have a lot of time to, sit around and bask in the nifty of everything that you get to do for God. I seem to spend a lot of time just doing it and not really thinking about it until maybe later. Maybe not until I go back and write about it in a blog, when I write about something that happened 2 years ago. I feel very busy. And I'm not miserable, but I'm challenged a lot. I feel a lot of stress. I feel a lot of strain in what I do, and a lot of times very little reward. And I've had Christians say to me, well, if God were behind what you were doing, wouldn't you be rewarded more? And I was like, wow, what was Jesus' reward for his ministry? My gosh, what were all the apostles' reward for their ministry? Jesus said, count the cost, meaning, and first and foremost, be ready to die for me when it comes to that. Second off, Paul said, being content in all things. He was referring to that they had no money, that they had no food, that they hadn't slept. That he's learned to be content in all things. He wasn't saying to the cushy Christians in America, be content that you only make $60,000 a year instead of $100 grand a year. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say that. In fact, all of Christianity is built on poverty, on struggle, on persecution, on rejection. I will never leave you nor forsake you. So wherever you go, I'm going to give you that. And I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Doesn't mean wherever you go, that was my plan for you. That was my desire for you. And that's what's good for you. But I'll let you have it. Enjoy the apple, Eve. Enjoy. But I'll never leave you nor forsake you. You have just left me. You've just forsaken me. I will not leave you nor forsake you. We need to stop turning God into the Santa Claus goo-goo muck in the sky that performs at our whim and realize exactly what he was saying when he spoke. Because he said over and over and over again, you're going to do this your way and it's going to fail. But I'm going to be there to pick up the pieces. Sounds like normal parenting to me. I can't speak for anyone else, but I find a lot as a parent that as my kids get older, that I specifically do a lot of, a great idea, you go do that, and when you need me to bail you out, call me. Because we still have to do it our way, we still have to make our mistakes, but just as I'll never leave nor forsake my children, that God will certainly never leave nor forsake us. But his word this week is over and over again has been, don't live beyond your means. And of course, in our economy, that's probably really good advice right now. But I know that he is saying that there is a disconnect in his people from recognizing the cost of their discipleship in Christ. Recognizing that this is what God called me to do. This is what God called me to be. This is how God called me to do it. And any choice you make for God comes with consequence. It does. You do something that God tells you to do. Somewhere, somehow, something's going to react. Somehow, some way, someone's going to react. Whether it be friends, whether it be family, whether it be just the structure of your life, something always changes when you change. Something always happens when you do something different. And I was trying to decide which example of what doing this ministry has cost me that hurts the most, that cost me the most. And it's a tough call. I got a whole list, and I was like juggling them, and then I realized there was one thing I did not juggle in the mix. One thing that stood alone. And I realized that must be the one that cost the most. And that was that by taking the path that I've taken in this ministry, meaning to not just look, act, and sound provocative, but that what I sang about, what I spoke about, would be provocative, which I know God gave me to do. I had to forfeit my right and my expectation and my enormous desire for my kids to come to everything I do. What parent wouldn't want that? And it's been the hardest, most painful, most frustrating, and scary aspect of this ministry. I've heard so many things about what I do from so many different sources, and nothing has scared me. I've prayed about everything in case it should scare me. But the one thing that always scared me was that here I have a ministry, here I have a church, and I'm not ministering to my children through it. In the beginning I was a little bit, but they kind of grew out of that and had other needs. But our God in heaven provided something for them that they found on their own, and they make their own arrangements to get to, and they take ownership of, and they care about, and they're learning about the things of God every